Let's head back to Burien, Washington to the Classy Chassis Car Show.
You know, hot rodding has a great history. It goes back to the 30s, even into the 20s. Well, we have a gentleman here with a 1932 Ford that he has owned longer than any car you have owned. He has owned it since 1948. Ted Fellows, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about the history of the car. I guess you have a lot of history on this car.
Well, I had a 34 Chev that was worn out, just about worn out. My dad gave it to me, and he said trade it off. Well, I traded that and a little money for this, for a Model A Roadster. Then I learned about hot rods, and so I took the body off the Model A body, put it on a 32 Ford body, and that's kind of the beginning of what you see here.
So you started looking around at what was happening with guys building hop-ups and all the old hot rods and thought, this looks like something I had to do to this 32 Ford?
Exactly, yeah. And so I built up a medium-worn flathead V8. We road raced it a little bit. We drag raced it some, but mainly I just drove it. I took it on this 4,700-mile trip back to Minnesota, 1954.
So back in the late 40s or early 50s, as you were driving this around as a hot rod, what kind of reaction did you get from the general public?
Well, they liked it, but there were other cars, you know, that were, well, some of them were more show cars than this. And this car, at one time, it looked a lot better than it does now. I painted it, and I'd had some experience with auto painting, and it looked pretty nice. But, you know, it sat, and then I'd make some changes to it. And I opened my own business in 1963, and it kind of took a back seat to that. And but then I built up another flathead, and I kind of wore that one out, probably abused it. And I've always liked 4 cylinders. So I bought a rolled over 78 Pinto and put the Pinto motor, transmission, rear end, wiring, all that. This is a kind of a slug compared to the other one, but I like the sound of a 4-cylinder, and I like the way they feel, and I might change it again. Who knows?
You know, the 20-somethings that do the rat rod thing these days, and other people, different ages, that are appreciating kind of cars the way they were way back then when these things were a little rough. What does that community think of this car?
I come to these car shows, and I get a lot of people asking questions about it. They remember cars like this. But the younger people, I don't think they relate to them at all, or not very much.
You mentioned younger guys. You showed me a picture of a car club that you were in back in, what, the early 50s?
Yeah.
And they were the
Dragons.
How long were they together?
Oh, boy. Well, I think they probably died out about 1956, 57, at least as far as I was concerned, because I got into other things, and I'm guessing it just kind of petered out.
Well, Ted, on behalf of the viewers, I'd like to thank you for, you're a generation ahead of my generation, and it was you and people like you that helped people like me have a real appreciation of the hot rod world and hot rod cars. So thank you very much, Ted.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
All right. Thank you.